Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of the Palmetto State's largest industry. Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water is a production of the student media team at the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe.
Good afternoon, Aggies. Welcome to another episode of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water, where I have my co-host today,
Savannah Smith,
and our guest here, Matthew Perron. Now, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, Matthew Perron? Like, where do you work?
Sure. I'm the public relations manager at Riverbanks Zoo Garden. I've been there for 2 years and a week. Not that I'm counting, but before that, I spent 15 years at ABC Columbia News as a weatherman and movie reviewer and reporter. And so, as I was telling Tony earlier, I kind of left the media circus for the actual zoo. So now I'm at Riverbanks getting the word out about all the new developments, talking to the media, letting people know what's new and what's exciting.
Okay. So in the midst of our research about like where you worked before, because we had to, be prepared for you, we saw a little something about pollinator landscaping. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Basically, what pollinators are is our initiative that we're calling Planting with a Purpose. So what it is any home around the state, if you plant normal pollinator plants such as, butterfly bushes or flowering plants that allow bees, butterflies, anything else to come in, get the pollen and spread it around, then you can naturally keep the environment going just by small little initiatives like that while having a pretty garden at your house as well.
So what do you guys have like a surefire way of like getting that word out about that? Or you guys just like
we do a lot of gardening workshops for adults as well, and we also give out seed packs of pollinator plants a good bit, or we'll sell them with a lot of our plant sales. We'll do during our Zufari auction that we have once a year. We'll give out pollinating plants, pollinating bulbs, seed packs, just a bunch of things that are low cost, but will go a long way as the world moves forwards.
That seems very interesting. So you kind of mentioned that you guys have like these workshops and things like that. Do you guys do any like media-based things around like advertisements over like the internet? Because the internet's like huge, and
of course. In my team, I'm considered part of marketing communication. So between me and my marketing manager, we're both sending out press releases constantly to the media, updating them about any adult programs we're having at the garden. And Greg, he's our social media guy. He's going on. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we're putting out every day new content and things you can do, especially we have an Earth Day celebration coming up in April. I guess that's when Earth Day is every year, but yeah. So April 25th, I think we're doing it, where we'll have a bunch of people in, and we'll have our engagement teams having booths set up where the public that comes in that day can get a lot of these seed plants and learn education about different flowering plants and things we do at the garden, as well as on the animal side of things.
So it sounds to me that you guys are like very invested in the betterment of our environment, considering how, over the past 200 years or so, we haven't really been the best caretakers of our planet.
Yes, I'd say that's fair to say. Our mission at Riverbanks is, the way we put it, is we want to create connections that inspire actions that impact wildlife and wild places. So everything we do is geared towards sustainability, and conservation. That's the word that was bouncing around in my head that I couldn't get out. So everything we do, all the tickets we sell, anyone who comes in, all of that money goes to feeding our animals. Costs more than $500,000 a year to feed the animals at Riverbanks.
Whoa.
So all of that money comes from the public. Plus, we are also now doing our Satch Krantz Conservation Fund, where we are giving out scholarships and grants. Right now at Riverbanks, we have picked out 11 conservation organizations this year that are going to benefit from our Satch Krantz Conservation Fund. And as a group, we all vote on our favorite 3, and then whoever ranks highest gets the most out of the pot, and then it goes down from there. But the Satch Krantz Conservation Fund, it's dedicated to conserving wildlife and wild places, and we do that through, we have a SAFE program, which is saving animals from extinction, which we are actually accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the AZA, which is, we are one of 253 associations across the world that are accredited. And to put that in perspective, that's less than 10% of any animal exhibitors are accredited by the AZA. So since we're able to be a leader in the conservation of endangered species, because we are tasked with breeding them. A lot of people think of a zoo as a place to go see animals. For us, it's to make sure that all of these species survive moving forward. We check genetic diversity before anything gets bred. And we are one of 7 facilities, for example, that has koalas, in the entire U.S. So we're tasked with breeding them, making sure that the genetic line stays pure and that for years to come, there'll be koalas everywhere. So all of this is our conservation efforts, and smallest things around the park, no plastic straws because of the sea turtle problems, that they'll get caught in sea turtles. So all of our straws are actually made from recycled oyster shells, which breaks down in about 3 weeks after being used. So that's really cool. All of our sunscreen is reef safe, which is, a lot of people don't realize that sunscreen you may have has chemicals in it that can bleach coral reefs and cause them to be more susceptible to diseases, as well as all of our coffee that we sell is bird friendly. A lot of coffee plantations in South America cut down the canopies so they have more room to grow. All the coffee we buy and serve is grown on plantations where they leave the canopies up for all the birds and stuff like that, which actually ends up growing better coffee because of the shade is a better climate for coffee beans to grow in. So it's just really the littlest things, what we do, from how we clean, what products we use in our gift stores and in our restaurants. All of it's dedicated towards impacting wildlife in wild places.
Speaking of the coffee and the straws and things like that, that's actually such an interesting point, considering that what we've learned in recent years is that taking better care of our environment affects us in a better way. So there's you'll notice that a lot of the main complaint, the main overarching complaint about switching to green and better fuel and better just for our environment is that it's costly, and that obviously it's costly to have to make that switch, but that it might be more expensive and that it's just easier to switch to this. But then when it's tested and put in practice, it's shown that it's sometimes cheaper.
Yeah, in the long run, green initiatives will actually save money. You think of the big ones, like fossil fuels and carbon emissions and stuff like that. Yeah, now they have electric cars, hybrid cars. That's one way to do it. But also the simplest steps can be done to do these conservation activities, such as, don't mess with wildlife if you see it in the wild. We have Riverbanks actually partners with DNR a lot, and one of our programs is We Stop Wildlife Trafficking, which you don't really realize is a big thing, but people are finding these box turtles on the side of the road and selling them for pet stores and stuff like that. Whereas if you just leave all that alone, then that whole industry is going to dry up. There's easy things I was talking about, like just the sunscreen or the coffee you buy. Very simple steps, not any pricier. As far as, in fact, I think Reef Safe sunscreen is actually cheaper. So, you're saving money that way. And just by allowing our planet to thrive, then in the long run, it will save not only money, time, but lives as well. I mean, if we allow the coral reefs to keep getting bleached, they are the home for 70% of the ocean's fish, which humans use for consumption. And if the coral reefs go away, food supplies are going to drop, and then they'll have to find other ways to supplement that. So yes, more cost effective, more safe. And in the long run, it's a balance between humans and the ecosystem, and it should be thought of that way. And the more it is balanced, then the better things will go down the road.
Yes, sir. Could you give us like a little bit of insight on what compost is?
Yeah, actually, we've calmed down a little bit on compost because a lot of it came from our elephants, which we no longer have elephants anymore. They outgrew their habitat. So we've actually sent them to a elephant retirement community in Wisconsin, of all places. If that means anything, I don't know if they like cheese or what's up with Wisconsin. But
I don't really know anybody lived in Wisconsin.
Apparently, there's a big elephant exhibit there that a lot of senior elephants go to. But so they produced most of the manure that we use for the compost, but we still get some from rhinos, giraffes, stuff like that. And that's basically what we just turn that into fertilizer that we use for all our flower beds and agricultural beds around. We used to sell it on the website. Now, once a year, we'll do a big sale and people kind of like line up just to come get it, because apparently it works phenomenally. And it's just like you can take a bag, and even though it's coming from animals, you can literally they somehow, turn it all into just fertilizer. So it just feels like topsoil. If you pick it up and run it through your fingers, no odor, no texture, just basically turn into extremely fertile soil. That's what we use for all our planting beds. And like I said, once a year, a lot of local people who do their own gardening, their own farming at home and stuff like that will line up and take as much as we're willing to give.
So you mentioned that you were in field media for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? So when transitioning to working for a zoo, even though you're kind of in the same wheelhouse, did you have to further your education when?
I spent 15 years reading press releases, and now I'm the guy that's sending out press releases. So that was a bit of education in itself. But when you're no longer reporting the news, but instead you're giving it, what I found the most interesting transition is that people at the zoo don't realize how many stories we have to tell. For some of these keepers, it's their day-to-day lives, and they're just like, oh, this is my work. It's fun. It's awesome. This is what I love doing. But they don't realize that there are giant stories to be found inside these things. We had 3 20-something-year-old keepers of our rhinos who somehow found out that there's a vein in a rhino hoof that gives out blood better than where people were normally taking blood in the shoulder from rhinos. And so they trained our male rhino, Bill, to put his hoof up on this block, and he'll sit there for an hour while they can draw blood. And so we were one of the first 3 facilities around the world to spin that blood into plasma, which we can then use to save baby rhinos. And now that we figured that out, we are partnering with a rhino orphanage in South Africa that is saving baby rhinos, and we're teaching them how to do this process as well. And these were just 3 20-something-year-old kids that, they just thought they were doing their job every day. And they're like, oh, cool, look, I can get a rhino to stick his foot up on a block and hold still.
They revolutionized something.
Yeah, and now it's helping around the world. So those are the type of things that I'm like, you guys need to tell me about this stuff. And so it's really fun. I never imagined how many stories there would be in the zoo. And of course, coming from news, I have to learn to put a little more of a professional spin on it, I think, when I'm sending it out than when I was reporting it. So, but no, I've taken a little bit more education. I just recently got a climate change certification from the National Organization of Climate Change and Oceanography or something like that. So there's always a chance that even while I'm doing my job to learn more, and just learning all the animals' names was tough enough education for that. So yeah, no, and it's constantly learning, going to public relations conferences, learning what's newsworthy, learning. It's a tough part of our job is that we lose our residents. I mean, eventually you're going to lose some of your animals. We just recently lost Zuri, our African lion, who is the oldest lion in North America.
Oh,
but so then, it's going from writing out a press release, it's all excitement about a new thing coming, to then having to send out an obituary and be, real feeling, because I mean, people know our animals, but the keepers that work with them, I mean, that's their family. A lot of them, these are their children, and they come in and they know all of their personalities. And so you just got to find the balance, I guess. So it's not so much as reporting it from a news standpoint, where you can tend to get a little jaded, where you're just reporting stories and not letting them emotionally affect you necessarily. Whereas now all of this is, we're trying to get the media in because it does emotionally affect us.
Yes. So, could you give us a little outlook on your raptors and endangered species clinic?
Yeah, sure. Our raptor clinic it's interesting. It just kind of happened that way, that our head vet, Martha, she is excellent with birds of prey. She specialized in that through veterinary clinics and stuff. So it kind of turned out now that whenever someone finds an owl, a hawk, an eagle that's been injured, they'll bring them to us, and she takes care of them as far as, sometimes it's to a point where she'll have to euthanize or put them down. But for the most part, she can rehabilitate them and then reintroduce them back to the wild. So that other wild animal rescue centers don't work as well with the raptors as we do. So we're able to take that off the shoulders, so to speak, of a lot of local vets or local animal wildlife control centers that not as good with them as we are. And as far as endangered species go, many of our animals are endangered species. Like I said, because of the AZA accreditation, we're the ones tasked with breeding them. So, for example, we recently partnered with Department of Natural Resources, and there's a species of frog from South Carolina, the gopher frog, that was going extinct. And so through grants we funded some graduate students with, we've tried this program now where DNR, when they find tadpoles, will bring them to us, and we've built a gopher frog tadpole metamorph facility outside of our aquarium and reptile complex that we raise them for a year or two, and then we set them back free in land that DNR has now taken solely for natural habitats, and we've recreated their burrows and stuff like that, and we track them. So we know that instead of 2 of the tadpole eggs hatching and making it to adulthood, we're putting 50 out in the wild a year now to survive. And we do that same type of Head Start program with green sea turtles. Every 2 years, we get a brand new sea turtle hatchling as soon as it comes out of the nest, because of all the baby sea turtles that come out. I think 1 or 2 of them survive into adulthood. So every 2 years, we take one and we raise it, and it's swimming around our tank right now in the ark, and it's bullying the fish, so to speak. But it's fun. So we raise them. This one's Huntington, and we'll send him back right about where he was hatched, down near Georgetown, I think the end of October this year, and then we'll get a brand new hatchling, because that's hatchling season as well. So we give them 2-year head starts. People get to come in and see green sea turtles, which you don't normally get to see. And then he goes out, and hopefully we put a little tracker in those guys too. So if he comes up on a beach, the people who watch the turtle nests have a scanner, and they scan them normally, and they're able to call us and say, hey, Destiny just came up and laid eggs here. And so that's really cool, endangered wise. Our giraffe program, many people don't realize giraffes are an endangered animal. I mean, people don't ever think of that. But so we raise and breed giraffes. We just got a brand new Tahini's, our newest giraffe, came in December. She's a year and a half old. And the AZA told us she was a great genetic breeding partner for Bruce. So in a couple of years, we'll try and have some more baby giraffes coming out, which will then circulate to other zoos so they can eventually have offspring of their own. So yeah, giraffes are endangered. We have Madagascar leaf-tailed geckos that we've won awards for. They were almost extinct due to deforestation in Madagascar. And our curator of herpetology, Sean, somehow figured out how to breed them extremely successfully. And so from them almost being extinct to now, I think we breed about 1,000 a year. So any Madagascar leaf-tailed geckos you see anywhere in the world at any aquarium, zoo, or once they get put back in the wild came from Riverbanks. So that's, and there's all kinds of stories like that. We take care of a bunch of endangered animals and wildlife trafficked animals. We're going to open a new exhibit in the next 3 or 4 years over on the garden side that is actually just a primate forest for trafficked spider monkeys that are going to come in. And that's one of the most trafficked in the pet trade. And they've started being able to stop it and bring them in, but they don't have anywhere for these spider monkeys to go. So we're building an entire primate forest going over nature walking trails. So you'll be able to walk the trails on the garden side, and there'll be spider monkeys like all around you, climbing over your head and cool stuff like that. You've mentioned like actions that you've taken proactively against trafficking. Do you guys, it's probably not like your scene, but have you guys done anything like actively going against trafficking? Maybe like, setting up points to like in high traffic areas to like check it out. Yep. Well, we're actually, we are able to partner with DNR because they're the actual law authority that could pull these people over and stop and stuff like that. But we're actually, our conservation manager, Hunter, right now is putting together a wildlife trafficking program. In fact, they just sent out a survey the other day to see what people know and what people don't know. And they're taking those answers to be able to put the program together with DNR. And I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if you've seen like human trafficking posters in rest areas that, you put those up and if you see something, say something. So they have a bunch of initiatives that they're working on now. And I think in the next 2 to 3 years, there will be a very strong anti-wildlife trafficking presence coming out of Riverbanks and DNR.
Yes, sir. Do you know, like, obviously for profit, but what causes such trafficking to like occur?
It's people want exotic pets. You don't know why, and they're not things that, a lot of these aren't things that can be taken care of very easily. But, and TV doesn't help. If you watch Friends enough, you're like, oh, I want a white-faced capuchin monkey like Ross had. And so people think, oh, I can get a monkey and take care of it. And no, it doesn't work that way.
Yes, sir.
It's like, you always hear stories about like the Everglades in Florida where people bought all these pythons and then couldn't take care of them and let them go. And now they're eating everything, in the Everglades. So it's just people trying to have the newest, most exciting thing, I guess. And it really doesn't work out well for the environment or a lot of times for the people who bring in these exotic endangered animals.
Essentially glorified media that doesn't do well to it. There's like a gap between the education on these animals, whereas how they're glorified in the media.
Yes, exactly.
Which it's honestly kind of sad because like there is there's such beauty in just the different thousands of different species that you can find everywhere. And even through your guys' conservation efforts there's just so much effort that you have to put into saving one species that you can't save the thousands of them that are probably going extinct as we speak.
Right.
So what are your guys' methods to identifying whether or not a species is going extinct, or if it's a new one, or,
Well, it's actually funny that you say it that way, because we just built a Komodo dragon breeding facility. So we're planning to breed baby dragons, which I guess other than Game of Thrones, I've never heard that out loud. So kind of cool that we're jumping into that racket. But they recently, in the last 2 weeks, just moved from vulnerable to endangered. So the AZA, the World Wildlife Federation, a lot of them keep tabs on that. And then through the AZA, they tell us, which ones we can breed, which ones we need to breed. And a lot of these nearly going extinct animals that we're breeding aren't necessarily going to be put back in the wild. They're kept for being in human care at zoos, so that for generations to come, they can be raised very well. Usually animals in human care outlive their median life expectancy in the wild.
By a lot.
Probably 25 to 50% longer. So a lot of the work we're doing to save these species, some will be reintroduced, but others are just for people to enjoy for years to come.
We saw that you have a Riverbanks farm. What could you tell us about the domesticated?
Basically what that is it's kind of cool. It was an idea we had a few years ago. So we built kind of this farmyard where we have, we have some chickens, we have goats, we have alpacas, we have potbelly pigs, we have a really mean turkey. No one likes to go near him because he doesn't like a lot of us. But it's really cool because we bring kids in. It's an interactive farm area where they get to, we have like 4 different species of goats, and they brush them, they feed them, and they get to hang out with the goats in the pasture. We have, a cow milking station to teach kids proper ways to milk a cow. I know now there's a lot of automated dairy farms and stuff like that, but trying to teach them that and letting them pet and feed and see more of the domesticated animals too, that, kids may want to go out and pet a lion, but as the PR manager, that's my nightmare. So it's nice to be able to come to the zoo and see some animals that you get to interact with up close and pet and feed as well.
Are you aware of any of the zookeepers' perspectives on caring for domesticated versus exotic animals?
The way our zookeepers are set out is there's 3 different there's the mammal team, there's the herpetology, there's the aquarists, and there's the bird team. So basically, if we have mammals that are both domesticated and wild. So our keepers care for everybody, and they'll move station to station and try and learn as much as they can about the different methods for all of them. The people I really feel for are vets, because I don't know how you go from treating an anaconda to a mere tiger, 10 minutes later. But it's really cool, and you learn quickly that a lot of whether they are domestic animals or wild animals, a lot of them have the same physiology, the same temperament, stuff like that. So it's interesting that if you can treat a giraffe, you can treat a rhino, because they're very similar as far as internal.
No, unfortunately, we don't really have much time to continue this, but you have to invite us out there too.
Oh, no. You guys come to the zoo anytime. Bring it. You guys tell me what you want to see and we'll hook it up.
Dev, you're gonna have to let me pet you're gonna have to get a giraffe to bend down and let me pet it.
I'll let you feed it.
Oh, Taz.
Its tongue is yay long and purple, so I'll let you hold some kale up for it and it'll eat right out of your hand.
That sounds really cool. Thank you, Aggies, for today's episode of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. Today I was with my co-host,
Savannah Smith,
and our guest, Matt Perron. We had a lot of fun. See you next time.
Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water, a closer look at agriculture in South Carolina. is a production of the student media team at the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe. For more information on our school, visit our website at www.delahowe.sc.gov.